Hopefully we all made the fantasy playoffs, and if you did, great job, but our job is not finished here. We still have to lock in and win a few more weeks in order to become fantasy football champion. This video specifically is going to talk about the scariest players that we do not want to see in the playoffs whatsoever. If they're on your side of the bracket, run for the hills. It's not looking pretty for you. These are the scariest players to go up against in your fantasy playoff runs this year, and hopefully they don't cost you a fantasy football championship. Let's roll the intro. The first player I want to talk about, someone that wasn't drafted in the first 2 rounds of fantasy, probably even added off waiver wire recently. Michael Wilson of the Arizona Cardinals is our first player that you do not want to see in the playoffs this year. Over the last 5 weeks, so weeks 10 to 14 as I'm recording this video, Michael Wilson is the wide receiver 2 in PPR points. So it's Jackson Smith-Njigba, Michael Wilson, and everybody else follows. I get what you're going to say next. You can have good games, you can score touchdowns, and those numbers are inflated. No. Michael Wilson does not do that. Michael Wilson scored a touchdown in one of those 5 weeks. Think about how scary that is. He is the number 2 wide receiver in PPR points over the last 5 weeks and only got in the end zone in one of those 5 games. That is horrifying. Next week, the Arizona Cardinals play the Houston Texans, so maybe you'll get lucky enough to play him in round 1 of a playoff series. But if Michael Wilson squeaks by to the next round, or the person in your league has a first round bye, you're in trouble, because after that, he's going to play the Atlanta Falcons and the Cincinnati Bengals in the 2 weeks following. This is a recipe for disaster if you don't have Michael Wilson on your fantasy teams. This next player, probably the most obvious one that was definitely drafted in the first round of your fantasy leagues, but nevertheless, Jahmyr Gibbs is very scary to go up against in the playoffs, and he has a track record of doing this in the fantasy playoffs. He is a fantasy playoff elevator. His game reaches a whole new level this time of year. Last season, during the fantasy football playoffs, so that would be weeks 15 through 17, his lowest running back finish was RB7 overall. That is disgustingly scary. And if that wasn't sickening enough to hear, Jahmyr Gibbs over his last 5 games is averaging 32 PPR fantasy points per week. 32. You do not want to play this guy if you are versing him in the fantasy playoffs, but luckily there is another first round pick that maybe you have on your team, or maybe you don't and you'll just be screwed even more. Bijan Robinson is the next player I want to talk about, and probably just as scary as Jahmyr Gibbs if you have to face either one of these in the playoffs. We have yet to see this season, and we've seen a lot of fantasy football so far this year. We've yet to see Bijan Robinson go back-to-back masterclass games. He does great one game, he does alright the next game. But his next 3 games coming up are against the Tampa Bay Bucks, the Arizona Cardinals, and the LA Rams. Now I know what you're going to say. Aren't the LA Rams a good defense, Turtle? Yes. The LA Rams defense is a great defense. But let's take out last week's game against the Arizona Cardinals, because the Arizona Cardinals are one of the worst teams in terms of running the football. And let's examine how much the Rams have been exposed by running backs in the previous 3 games before that. Prior to the Arizona Cardinals game for the LA Rams defense, their last 3 opponents that they've played have gone for an average of 140 rushing yards per game. Bijan Robinson is going to cook them in week 17. You better hope and pray that Bijan Robinson is not in your fantasy football championships. Lastly, the player at tight end that you do not want to be facing in the fantasy playoffs is George Kittle, because in each one of these games, he can absolutely go off and go nuclear against you. In only 8 games this year, George Kittle has 5 touchdowns already. So he's pretty much good to get in the end zone. Not to mention when you play teams like the Tennessee Titans, the Indianapolis Colts, and Chicago Bears, you're just asking for this guy to be cooking you in the playoffs. Maybe the improving Bears defense could limit George Kittle just a little bit in week 17, but those other matchups in week 15 and 16, those should be layups and dunks for George Kittle against the Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts, who don't even have a quarterback right now. These are the 4 scariest players that you do not want to be facing in the fantasy playoffs. And if you have any of them, if you have 2, if you have one of them, you should be feeling really good about your chances to go on a massive playoff run in your fantasy league. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. If you don't have any of these players, I'm surely hoping that this advice is wrong and you triumph and survive and win a fantasy football championship. But if you do have any of these players, I sure hope I'm right, because I believe that they're going to ascend your fantasy football team to a whole new level at this time of year, which is exactly what we want. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Smash the like button for good luck during your fantasy football playoff run. Hope each and every one of us could come out as champions in our leagues. Definitely comment down below and let me know how your playoff journey is going as it unfolds in real time. And that's all the time I got for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Turtle. This is Outlier Fantasy. And I will see you in the next video. Wow, you stuck to the end of this video? Thank you so much. If you're new here, make sure you check out one of these videos on the screen right now. And don't forget, before you leave, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any fantasy football videos on this channel. That's all I got for you guys. I'll see you in the next one.